I simply cannot find her. Maria, she's missing from the abbey again. Perhaps we should have put a cowbell around her neck. I have looked everywhere, in all of the usual places, considering that it's Maria. I suggest you look in someplace. The sound of music has been a cultural phenomenon since the 1960s. The story of the young nun Maria bringing love and music to the Von Trapp family captivated millions of viewers, turning songs like Do Re Mi and Edelweiss into timeless melodies. Yet, behind its charm, the film hid tense behind-the-scenes moments that audiences never knew about. The filming process was so grueling that Christopher Plummer, the stern Captain Von Trapp himself, loathed the movie until the day he died. Not only that, but unexpected accidents, chaotic, perfect scenes, and moments that were completely forbidden to be mentioned for decades still fuel fan curiosity. Why would a legendary masterpiece irritate its own leading star? What accident was hidden for years? What secrets lay behind Julie Andrews' radiant smile and the innocence of the child actors? Let's uncover the shocking truths behind The Sound of Music. 1. The band scene. Julie Andrews blown away by helicopter winds in the opening shot. Behind one of cinema's most iconic opening scenes, Julie Andrews spinning with outstretched arms on the lush Austrian meadow, lies a band disaster that once left the entire crew sweating bullets. To capture that sweeping aerial shot, the team used a helicopter flying in circles above the hill. But instead of just creating a romantic effect, the massive rotor blades unleashed terrifying gusts, flattening grass and knocking the actress around like a rag doll. Julie Andrews wasn't the graceful Maria. She was tossed about like a puppet rolling on the grass as if she were a ball. Julie later confessed, "Every time the helicopter circled back, the downdraft flung me flat into the grass," meaning each time it returned, she was slammed face first into the ground, forced to scramble up, fix her dress, and keep smiling. What audiences saw as pure magic was actually dozens of grueling takes amid deafening wind, blinding dust, and an actress clenching her teeth to preserve the golden moment. The chaos was so extreme that much of the footage was permanently cut. Shots of Andrew's tumbling hair-disheveled face contorted in panic were never shown. Producers feared even a single flawed image would shatter the romantic illusion they were crafting. And so, audiences only ever saw the perfected version, Maria spinning in heavenly light, while in reality, it was a scene of danger strain and a near accident that almost entered cinema history. One of the most romantic moments in the film is the iconic kiss. The tender light, the sweet music, all seemed flawless. But few know that behind that legendary kiss hid a dark secret, a chaotic truth the crew forbade anyone to mention. The kiss scene buried in secrecy for years. In the gazebo where Maria and Captain Von Trapp finally confessed their love, the audience saw perfection, moonlit softness, tender lines, a magical kiss. But behind the romance was utter chaos. The set wasn't filled with music. It was filled with vulgar, wet, grotesque noises. The source: the massive carbon arc lamps used to fake moonlight. Instead of casting a dreamy glow, they sputtered with long, obscene bursts, sounding exactly like someone stomping on a bowl of raspberries. And cruelly, each time Andrews and Plummer leaned in to kiss, the lamps groaned at the precise moment that should have been sublime. The scene devolved into farce. While Plummer whispered, "Maria, I love you," the lamp let out a crude wheeze, ruining the mood. They tried again. Once, twice, 10 times. Nothing worked. Andrews admitted that both of them stared at each other, desperately serious. But every time that giant farting raspberry noise struck, they collapsed into giggles like misbehaving school kids. 20 takes were ruined, while the crew stood by helplessly as their stars laughed uncontrollably for hours. Finally, director Robert Wise intervened. He scrapped the elaborate lighting plan and filmed the scene in darkness, leaving only the glowing gazebo windows behind. The actors' faces were cloaked in shadows, the kiss transformed into a mysterious silhouette. Ironically, that desperate solution turned disaster into wonder, a dreamy, ethereal scene that became one of cinema's most romantic icons. Few knew it only existed because the crew was defeated by the obscene raspberries of their lights. 20th Century Fox, however, never wanted the public to know. Behind-the-scenes footage was buried bloopers locked away and interviews tightly scripted. The film had to remain pristine, and that kiss had to stay an untarnished dream. Only decades later did the truth slip out when Andrews casually revealed in an interview that the kiss scene had been plagued by giant raspberry noises from the lamps. Fans were stunned the moment they thought was pure romantic symphony had in fact been cobbled together from laughter, technical chaos, and absurd accidents no one dared admit for a generation. But if the film set was already plagued with such troubles, the shock was even greater in France, where one sequence was outright banned. Number 3. In France, nuns singing Maria and Climb Every Mountain were censored. When the film premiered in France, several nun-singing scenes were cut by authorities. Officials claimed that showing nuns singing non-liturgical secular songs was a religious insult. Thus, iconic numbers like Maria and Climb Every Mountain, the very spiritual heart of the film, were slashed away. Imagine while the world shivered with awe as Mother Abbess belted Climb Every Mountain to inspire hope and perseverance. French audiences were left with silence. Instead, they got only tiny reprises, an echo at Maria's wedding and a fleeting note at the finale. The absence ripped out the film's spiritual core, reducing a grand hymn of faith into just a sweet love story robbed of its depth. Ironically, censorship only fueled curiosity. The more they cut, the more viewers whispered, "What was hidden? Why would even uplifting songs be banned?" Among cinephiles, full versions spread underground like forbidden treasures. Fans swapped international recordings, listening to the melodies their government tried to erase. Even decades later, the scars lingered. When a French sing-along DVD was released, subtitles for those songs were deliberately omitted, a silent reminder they once belonged to the outlawed category. By suppressing them, the censors unwittingly turned Maria and Climb Every Mountain into forbidden songs, spiritual jewels buried yet shining brighter, fueling the Sound of Music's legend. And that wasn't the only cut. With the film set against the shadow of war, the next censored scene would be even more shocking. Chapter 4. Salzburg initially banned the Nazi flags. One Sound of Music scene nearly vanished forever. Not because of technical issues, but because of historical trauma. To recreate 1938, when Nazi troops marched into Salzburg, Robert Wise needed to drape massive swastika flags across the city's grand buildings. But the moment local officials saw the plans, outrage erupted. For them, the symbol was a wound that had never healed. Even one reappearance on Salzburg's streets was intolerable. Authorities declared never. It will not be allowed here. But Wise did not back down. He issued a cold ultimatum. If Salzburg refused fake Nazi flags for a film, he would use real documentary footage. Undeniable reels showing Salzburg citizens cheering Hitler. It was psychological warfare. Either let Hollywood control the illusion with props or expose the raw, shameful truth of Salzburg's past to the whole world. They had no choice but to surrender. And so the film captured the swastika banners fluttering over Salzburg streets. But for many, that scene remains taboo. It wasn't just history being restaged. It was a clash between cinematic art and political wounds. The flags appeared on screen for only seconds, but they carried the weight of a city forced to confront the past it wanted to bury. Few know that leading man Christopher Plummer despised the movie itself. He wanted nothing to do with it. Why? Number 5. Christopher Plummer hated filming, calling it the sound of mucus. Christopher Plummer, the stern, icy Captain Von